applications are denied, not necessarily because of the suitability of the applicant, but most times it may be because of simple errors in the application and also its presentation. So you also want to pay attention, because I'll be sharing a few tips, a few mistakes I find, common mistakes I find people make, and how you can avoid making these mistakes. Go to the website and then find out the documents that will be required for you to make that application. The documents you would need, the supporting documents you would need to submit along with your application. Or if you're going for a physical interview, you should research on frequently asked questions, and then you should also prepare your own response, to those questions. I have been a victim of this, and which is why I always tell people that most times it's better to attach too many documents than too little. Now stay with me. Most visa applicants fail to attach sufficient documents, or the necessary documents required to submit the application. If you provide any information on the visa application form, ensure that there's a supporting document to back that information, because especially when you're a Nigerian, passport holder, when most interviewing officers are always looking for reasons to deny your application, you do want to show up, and then you show up well. So ensure that you have complete documentation. This I have personally been guilty of. I recall I was going for my graduation, and then my mom was also supposed to attend my graduation with me. And then when I submitted my application, I already had a visa, but I needed to apply for my mom and then my friend to come. And then the visa application was denied for reasons that did not make sense. And of course, by the time we took the denial letter and then went through the documents that we had provided, we actually found out that there was certain information that I should have provided. For example, I am graduating. I did not include my graduation, let's even say admission letter. I did not include my result. I did not include evidence that I had paid my fees. I did not provide enough information to convince the visa officer that it actually had genuine intention. So what we did was that by the time we received the first denial, we sat back and then we looked at all the mistakes that we had made, and then provided more documents, even documents that were not required, we provided. I even got my dad to write a letter to them saying, oh, my daughter is graduating, my wife has to be there because I cannot be there, so you have to allow my daughter. As in, my father wrote a letter introducing my mom, that they've been married for this long, and then the fact that I was graduating in the UK, and then my mom had to come and visit, had to come with me for my graduation. And then of course, my mommy was granted a visa immediately. Now, it's normal for people to do that and then maybe give up and say, oh, they don't want to give me a visa. Yes, I know they don't. Most times, as a Nigerian passport holder, the red flags come on. People are always looking for reasons to deny our visa application. But if you show up and then you show up well, and maybe it was one officer who had a bad day that considered your application. By the time you're applying again, you will be meeting a different person, and maybe this time it wouldn't be the same person, especially when an application comes back the second time. People would consider whatever you did wrong. So I always advise, do it the first time so you don't have to do it, again. This is a common mistake that everyone makes. Well, good luck. But do not forget that most of them are trained psychologists, and then that's their job. They are trained to figure you out. So if you lie, and the thing about lies is that by the time you lie, you have to be consistent with the lie. And how easy is it to be consistent with a lie? Because I find people tell lies that are very, very irrelevant. You do not want to do that, because if you tell one lie, then you probably need multiple lies to cover up that one lie. So tell the truth. It's not really a big deal, They're either giving you or not giving you. So I said it's better to provide too much information than to provide too little. Bro, sis, use your sense. Yes, it is important to provide information required to help your visa application. Let's say, for example, you are trying to prove that you have ties here in in your country of residence, and that you would return home. Something strong enough, something you are connected to that would ensure that you would return. And ties here could mean a family. For example, if you're a husband, you have a wife and children here, or you have a job, a stable job, that pays you, that you earn well. When they look at it, they're like, okay, this person has something going on here. The chances that they would abandon everything and travel is very slim. So, for example, you're trying to establish that you have enough ties, and then what would you do? For example, you have a full-time job. What would you do? You would attach your employment letter. You would attach your let's say leave approval letter. You would attach your let's say bank statement. You would attach your bank statement, and then you would attach, let's say, your ID card. When I say attaching too much, some people may not bother attaching those documents, but I will tell you, if I were to prove that I work in in my office, I would attach my employment letter. I would attach my leave approval letter. I would attach my last salary review. I would obtain an introduction letter from my office. I would attach my ID card, and everything that I consider in my own fair evaluation would sufficiently prove that I work in my office. Now, that is a good case of me providing too much than too little. You do not want to provide too much information, especially when you know that you do not have enough documentation to support that. If you know that an information, you do not have proof to support your document, to support what you're going to say, there's no point attaching, because you'll be creating more problems for yourself. In providing documentation, you have to ensure that you do not provide unnecessary documents. Any document that does not serve any purpose in that application, do not put it there. The problem with this is that you may give out too much information that might require more proof, and then which you may not be able to provide. So limit your response to the questions asked, and answer them as genuinely and as frank, as you can. Your financial record is very important to your visa application, because the interviewing officer wants to be convinced that you will not rely on public funds while you are in their country. So you should attach your bank statement showing that you have sufficient funds to pay for your trip, and also enough to sustain you when you return home. Because another mistake I find that people make is, let's say they plan to they have an interview coming up, and then they just arrange to have like huge funds paid into their accounts, just to show that, oh, I have this money to travel with, and maybe they pay in the money before the interview, and then after the interview the person takes it out. Like, seriously, if you were going to judge someone and then someone does that, what would you think? If the interviewing officer looks at your account and sees you pay in a huge sum of money, which on a regular, that kind of money does not enter your account, like, do you think you are very wise? You do not want to do that, because the interviewing officer is going to look at the activity in your bank account. So even if you're going to have huge money go into your account, do it long before your visa application. What you want to do is to develop your financial record for a period of 6 months. If you require a 6 months bank proof of bank statement, ensure that you develop your financial record for a period of 6 months. Let's say you have money coming in, ensure that that money goes into the account that you're going to be needing to support your application. Do that over time. Let's say before you used to split your funds into different accounts, but just be deliberate. Okay, I am going to go for my visa interview. I want to convince them that I have enough money to embark on this trip. Just ensure that you channel all your funds to one account. So instead of spreading it to other accounts, you just ensure that whatever is coming in comes into a single account. So you develop your financial record over time, and then allow your money sit there for a long time. Don't wait for 2 weeks before your interview days and then you go and tell somebody, oh, come and pay in, 2 million inside my account so I can show that I have money. After the visa interview, I'll return it to you. Like, seriously, that would, raise a red flag, as the interviewing officer may not be convinced that the funds, the funds are actually available, to you. Most people think that maybe they need a lot of money in their account to be granted a visa. No, you do not need millions in your account to be granted a visa. For example, I want to go to a destination, and then most visa application would require you estimating how much it would cost you to make that trip. So, for example, you're applying to the UK, and then while you're filling your form, there's a portion that tells you, okay, how much is available to you for this trip. It's simple mathematics. You have checked, you have provided an accommodation, information of an accommodation you're going to be staying. Calculate the total amount of money it would take you to stay for the period you intend to stay. Estimate an amount for your ticket, estimate an amount for your pocket money, and then just put a total and then put it there. And then while you do that, once you have estimated, you have an estimate of how much is available for the trip, you want to ensure that you have that amount sitting in your bank account. You do not need millions. You don't need to have 5 million. Most times, you do not need to have 1 million to be granted a visa. You just need to show that this account is active. Of course, people have normal lives, and they know, for example, let's say they know you earn this amount of money in a month, and then by the end of the month, you're going to be paid another amount of money, and then you will be able to afford it. It doesn't mean life does not happen. They are not wanting to see that this money is sitting down there. They just want to see that, look, this person, based on the person's income and lifestyle, they can afford to pay for this trip. So it's not a case of telling people, oh, go and dump millions into my account, so that my bank account, so I can show that I can afford to make this trip. No, you just, I've heard of a story of someone who was granted a visa with just 10,000 naira in her bank account. As a businesswoman, her bank record showed enough proof that she could afford, to pay for her trip. It was a case of, oh, I'm a businesswoman, I just paid for XYZ, I'm expecting this inflow, receivables, and of course she was granted a visa. So you do want to make sure that when you're making this application, your lifestyle and then your account, financial record actually reflects whatever position you have chosen. If you say you earn a salary, ensure that your salary is paid to your bank account so you can use that as proof. If you do business, ensure that monthly you pay yourself income from your business, so that you would have that as sufficient proof of your financial stability. So no, you do not need a lot of money, you do not need a lot of millions in your account, to prove that you can afford it. You just need to estimate the cost of your trip and then have that money sitting there in your account, and then extra to show that after you spend this amount of money, when you return home, you can still survive. I see this happen a lot of times, and most times it happens when people are nervous or where they perceive that they haven't been given a fair chance. But no matter how tense you are, I don't think arguing with the visa officer is really, really a good idea. Yes, some of them may come across a bit, unfriendly. They're not your friend, they're there to do the job. So if they ask you questions, just answer the question. If it requires more explanation, you just tell them quietly and calmly that please, you would like to explain. And most times if you're calm and then it looks as if you know what you're talking about, they would listen to you. They're human beings, so they would listen to you. So do not argue with your interviewing officer. You do want something from them, don't you? And of course, by the time you start arguing, it just, I don't forget that they have the discretion to either grant your visa or not. So be coherent and then make your point as simple and clear as possible. So the next thing would be appearing nervous. Yes, I know that like for example, we go for US embassy, that place. It's one of the most tensed environments I have ever been in. I don't like it, but once I'm there, I just know what's the worst that can happen is either going to be a yes or a no. And I know that places like that, once you know that, of course you have genuine intentions, but then you have to subject yourself to someone else to determine if they want you or not. It makes you tense. It's like maybe an interview for a job. It's usually a very tense environment. You even realize that most times they might ask you questions that you know and you know that you know and you know and you know it very well. But you would just forget. You would go blank. Why? Because you were nervous. Even though the environment may seem intimidating, you should try and bring your A game on. Remember that your body language says a lot, and most times if you cannot get any word out, it would not really help your application. So be coherent and polite even when it is not reciprocated. If you want to be treated well, then it's important to look the part. Imagine I say that I'm a lawyer and then I show up and then my boobs, they're all out. And then I'm like, I'm coming from the office. No one is going to believe me, Or maybe I say, oh, I'm a lawyer. And then I show up there, looking like a gangster. Like, it would be, oh, she's a lawyer. People do respect people who are well put together, clean. No one says you have to wear your Christmas attire. Just be clean. It's like attending an interview. If you were interviewing someone and then someone comes into your office looking like they did not make an effort to appear nice for the role that you're interviewing for, it would put you off. So if you know you want to attend an interview, it's important that you look presentable, clean and presentable. Like, seriously, you had like a 9 o'clock appointment and you got there late, and what's your excuse? Oh, I was in traffic. Like, seriously, who does that? I don't understand people who go late for events. I don't know, but I can't deal with people like that. So you want to arrive early, to avoid, cancellation of your visa appointment. Of course, I know that there are circumstances that can be beyond your control, but in situations where you can control, go early for your visa interview and then give yourself enough time to arrive and then settle down so you are not tensed. Yes, I know most times you have foreigners who would be interviewing you. If you do not, because most times if you do not understand them, feel free to ask them to repeat themselves, and they would. If you think it's difficult for you to understand, you can request, to have an interpreter who would interpret whatever it's being said to you. So even when, you need to communicate clearly, this is not, remember that they are not your friend, they're not your friends, they're not your family members, and so you can't go ghetto on them. You can't go there and then you're like, hey, what's up? Like, seriously, if you ask questions, you don't use jetty language like, man, I don't, you don't try to be funky with them, you just have to be clear. Use proper words that you can understand, clear words that you can understand. If you do not understand or if you do not know, get an interpreter, but that's not a time to be throwing jokes around and using jetty, languages, things that that may not, they're not your friends. So, and this is serious business. So you want the interview, you want the visa, don't you? Providing inconsistent information can affect your visa application. Like, you do not want to tell them at the beginning, oh, I am married, and then towards the end of your visa application, oh, we're separated, but we're still married. You want to be clear from the beginning, are you together, are you not together? Because by the time maybe you started out saying, oh, I'm married, at the end of the day, you're like, oh, we're separated. You're like, oh, we're separated, but because we have not filed. You now have to explain that, oh, we're separated, but we have not filed, but we're married. I said, we're living apart, but, we're legally still married. You might not get a chance to explain that. So you're married at the beginning, stay married till the end. You're separated at the beginning, be separated till the end. Or you provide the information firsthand at the beginning. Oh, legally, I am still married to this person, but we are living apart. And then you don't have to explain at the end, because it just throws you off balance. So be consistent with whatever information that you're providing, because you may never really get another chance to explain, and put, word, out there. If you like the content that I'm sharing here, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also please click the like button. It's the only way that you can support me. I would like to know what you think. What are the mistakes? What are the mistakes that you have made, and what are the common mistakes that you find other people have made during their visa interview? Please leave your comment here and let's chat.